Coelophysis is a perfect representation of the early theropods. An opportunistic carnivore, a nimble and tireless threat, with a jaw full of sharp, serrated teeth.
Well folks, that was the first of our carnivorous species profiles. We've been waiting for this one for a week now. Frontier teased it a little bit last week and it did not disappoint. We got our best look yet at the Coelophysis, and that includes a new hunting animation, but we're going to start off here in the first scene and we see some pretty great stuff here. First of all, it's our first proper in-motion look at the brand new desert biome. One that's even further away from the tropical biome we were using back in Jurassic World Evolution 1. Now there's a few different things to point at here. The first thing is the skin. A lot of people were a little apprehensive about Coelophysis, I think, because it basically looked like a big old Compsognathus. You know, the skin was very similar. But that was a little bit needless. We know these dinosaurs are going to have maybe up to 12 different basal skin colours and then a skin pattern, and you're seeing that system in effect here really strongly. So how we know it's going to work is you'll pick a dinosaur base colour and then a dinosaur pattern and then a dinosaur pattern colour. So what we're seeing here is this segmented, almost bony looking, it kind of looks like a vertebrate, sort of pattern going along the back of our Coelophysis, and it's in this sort of bright orange colour. As far as we know, you'll be able to change the colour of that pattern as well as the base colour of the dinosaur. Now in this clip and in the rest of the clips, it's all using the same pattern colour, but the base colour of the dinosaur changes, and we see three different ones here. We've got this sort of rusted red colour, we've got a more grey colour in the background, and behind it to the left we've got a creamy light coffee sort of colour. All of them use this segmented bone pattern going along their body in this bright orange colour, but the base colour changes. So it's a good way of showcasing how this system is going to work, and in theory we'd be able to change the bone colour to something completely different as well. And it looks fantastic. It really brings the dinosaur alive in a completely different way than the green did. The green was a little bit boring. It made the dinosaur feel a little bit toyish in a way, but changing up the colours, adding in the pattern, it makes them look a lot cooler. And adding to that is the brand new idle animations. We see our first one at the start of the clip, the Coelophysis towards us, scratches itself, it's got a little bit of an itch, maybe there's a bug annoying it, something like that. It reaches up and scratches around its sort of neck area, does a little warble, a little shake, kind of clearing off the dust as it were. It's a really nice little animation. It's the kind of thing the dinosaurs need a little bit more of, especially if it's unique to one dinosaur or, you know, a couple of dinosaurs. Things that give them a little bit more personality and life. That was one of the problems with Joween, that the dinosaurs kind of felt like they just walked around, ate, walked around, drank. They didn't interact with the world, and even the social circles have been improved, as we'll see in just a second. As said, we also get our first proper look at the new desert biome. We can see some various different desert palms in the background. We're going to talk a little bit about how that ties in with the Coelophysis environmental needs at the end of the video. And the one thing I like about this, and it's going to become more clear later on, is how it feels like it goes on and on into the distance. You know, there's no giant artificial feeling mountain blocking the way. It looks like it goes on into the far distance, like we're just in the middle of a giant desert. And those of you who watch me on Planet Zoo know I always like that kind of thing. Anyways, really like the up close look at the Coelophysis design, that little hook up towards the front of the upper lip, the way the eyes are deep and sunken in like it's, you know, been up for a few too many nights in a row. The Coelophysis looks how I feel, basically. There's a little mark going down the spine if you watch at the very start of the video when it scratches itself. It's got this like dark black patterning going along the spinal ridge. The way it shakes its head, closes its eyes, looks around, it just gives it a little bit of oomph. But we're going to see more of that in the next screen, so this is really exciting to me, because one of our big problems with Jurassic World Evolution 1 was, of course, the social circles. Other than fighting and later on dominance displays, and sort of herding, really the only social interaction dinosaurs had in Jurassic World Evolution 1 was where they would get into a circle with each other and they'd kind of like talk to each other like they were a weird cult. It was very strange. But this is our first look at a proper social interaction that isn't fighting or anything, but that doesn't observe those same rules. Now this is probably a baked in animation, but it just generally feels less artificial than the weird circle. We can see the Coelophysis on the right hand side has approached from behind the one on the left. They approach, they notice each other, they kind of snap at each other a little bit, the grey one in particular being a little bit more aggressive, the green one backs away. they kind of size each other up, and then they think, yeah, we'll just leave it. The green one stands up tall, hunches up onto its hind quarters, stands really tall as like a threatened sort of display, and they kind of just size each other up. It's kind of like a mini dominance display, without actually attacking each other, without locking into a weird circular animation. And you can see at the end of it that the grey one starts to walk away afterwards. This might not sound like a big deal, but it feels a lot more, I'm going to say natural like 20 times, but it feels so much more natural than the interactions the dinosaurs had in the past. And hopefully we've got lots of these animations that can play out, and lots of variety across the different dinosaurs, integrating these little social interactions, because the dinosaurs would interact, they would communicate, they would notice each other's presence, they would play, they would snap at each other, there would be moments where they acknowledge each other's existence. And that didn't really happen on an intra-species level back in Jurassic World Evolution 1, except in dominance displays and weird social circles, so this is a big step in the right direction. It's also a fantastically smooth animation, but, you know, isn't it always? It looks brilliant. I love the little shake, the little wobble. It seems like they're both just sort of acknowledging, yeah, that's fine, we're not going to do anything here. The tail moves at the same time, it sort of shakes side to side. The way the grey one kind of just comes to a standstill, holds its ground for a second before backing away. Fantastic. Again, another look at the desert biome. We can see the ground is quite flat and plainy in some ways, and there's little sparks of very dry, sparse grass. It's not like big clumps like we had in the past. It's very spread out and thin. We also see a rock. It is a beautiful rock. It's like this almost purpley colour, like very roughly hewn rock. It's a very similar shape to one of the rocks we did have back in Jurassic World Evolution 1, but it looks fantastic all the same. And then the return of the goat. Now the goat does appear to be the same as from the first game. It could have done with a little tweak. The goat from Jurassic World Evolution doesn't actually match the goat from Jurassic Park. It doesn't have the black spots. Not a big deal, I'm just pointing it out. It'd be nice to see that changed, I don't see why not really. But it's a really cool animation. We see this one-hit kill hunting animation between the Coelophysis and the goat, which you would expect. We know there's going to be more dynamic fighting, we know there's going to be herbivores fighting back and stuff like that, but I don't think we expected the goat to be one of the creatures doing that. It's still a prey item, it's still there to be fed upon. I will say I'm hoping we get more than a goat. It'd be really cool to have like a cow. Might be a little bit vicious, but a cow and stuff for larger theropods would be awesome. Anywho, we see it, it's a very quick playing animation. Coelophysis darts in from the right, jumps over, it kind of lands a little awkwardly just to the left of the goat, clamps down its jaws around the goat's neck, slides forward a little bit, does a little hop as well to kind of steady itself. You can see it's kind of being caught off guard by the momentum of the attack. The goat even opens its mouth in a little scream as it gets caught, which might be a little distressing for some of you, it must be said. Yeah, it's a nice little animation. It's got real weight to it. You know, when the Coelophysis lands, after first grabbing at the goat, you can see how the legs bend down and the entire body sort of shifts down towards the ground as that, you know, as gravity does its thing, basically. And the momentum and the weight of the jump kind of plays on the body of the dinosaur. It's just little touches that, again, ground the animation in a little bit more reality. In the background we can see there are some mountains, some blockades at the edge of the map. We've got these almost sedimentary looking rocks where it's like there's a layer of clay or something in the middle of the outskirts. And we also see some cacti for the first time in the video as well, several species there. We've got what looks vaguely like a prickly pear cactus, and then we've got the larger species that we see a lot. Yeah, nice variety again. It's quite important with a desert map because it'd be quite easy to... It's harder to get variety in a desert map in some ways because you're not going to clump together tons of different vibrant foliage. You have to spread everything around a little bit, but they seem to have done a good job. We seem to have various different species and types, and yes, a lot of them are taken from Planet Zoo, but why wouldn't they? You've already made them. They apply. Let's just throw them in there. It's also worth noting we have a look at what looks like it could be the ground fibre for our herbivorous creatures. To the back right of the screen there's it looks like a patch of grass, but it's much taller and darker and thicker. It looks like the kind of ground fibre that the Triceratopses were feeding on in the past. It is worth noting here that we don't see the lead up to this kill. Now, the animation itself is obviously a canned animation, it's obviously going to play out, but what we're hoping for is that we're not going to have one of these situations wherein the goat locks into place, and then the Coelophysis locks into place, and the goat runs away, and the Coelophysis hunts it down and plays the animation. It's totally okay that the Coelophysis will kill the goat in the same way each time. That's, you know, just the way of the world. But what's important is that the lead up into that animation plays out naturally. You know, the goat is just running around and the Coelophysis is just running around, and then they kind of segue into the kill animation without locking into place first. That's really what we want from the, you know, the one-hit set kill animations in terms of increased dynamism and realism. And then we see the little celebration. It's very happy with itself. It's got its food. There's a little shake a little bit. You know, it's roaring or calling or crying out. I guess I wouldn't really call it a roar for Coelophysis, though it's trying its best. Letting everyone else know, this is my goat. Everyone else, back away. And it's very proud of itself. I love the little wiggle of the tongue as well. You know, it's moving around with the mouth. The body shakes, the tail whips around. It's a nice little animation. And it kind of jerks forward a little bit at the end, interestingly enough. Kind of like it's about to, it sort of tilts its head to the side the way it might when it's about to dig in and have a little bit of a bite. So maybe it's taking the kill, it's calling out saying, right, back off boys, this is my go, you know, as boys do. And then it's going to dig its head in and feast. That's all to talk about for the actual video, but we're not quite done yet. So we're here on the Frontier forums for their write-up on the species profile, and again we have a little bit of new information. If you want to go check it out for yourselves, you can do. There's all this info here, but in terms of new mechanics or new information, we have to come down here to the bottom and this bit over here. So, in your parks, Coelophysis prefers a large area of open space it can run around in, but will also need some forest in its environment, so that's what I was talking about before. Now we're not expecting a full-on forest in the middle of the desert, so maybe there's a way to clump together cacti and ferns and stuff like that to kind of satisfy that environmental need. Being carnivores, they also need meat so they can feed. Yeah, its relatively diminutive size makes it an easy target for predators, so it doesn't cohabit well with other carnivorous dinosaurs and prefers spending time with its own kind. So at the very least, in terms of that new territory system, you're not going to mix in your Coelophysis with other carnivores. They'll fight and the Coelophysis will be chowed down upon. They might also get along inside an enclosure with larger herbivores. Due to small size, they won't go after herbivores that are bigger than them, meaning they will likely leave each other alone. While they like to stay together in groups, they won't engage in pack hunting, so unlike say the Velociraptors and the slightly larger dinosaurs and our Dromaeosaurids, the Coelophysis won't be a pack hunter, which makes sense. It would be a little bit weird and a little bit less special if all our carnivorous theropods were pack hunting dinosaurs, so I like it's been restricted a little bit, and it lets us do this. So this is actually the exciting part, really. Due to small size, they won't go after herbivores that are bigger than them. So we had an issue a little bit in evolution where, say, a single raptor could lock in and take down a massive hadrosaur or some description. And it always looked a little bit ridiculous, because in reality they would need pack hunting to do that. Coelophysis, as a non-pack hunting dinosaur, doesn't have the capability to take down these giant herbivores. So you could have some sauropods stomping around and some ceratopsids stomping around, and yeah, Maiasaurus stomping around, and you can have a pack of Coelophysis kind of darting in between, living in the same area but not actively interacting. Or maybe they have like little threat displays and stuff from the herbivores, but the Coelophysis won't be trying to kill them. And that's good. Being able to have cross carnivore and herbivore living conditions is a really good thing, because that's how the world works. Lots of times carnivores and herbivores can cohabit in the same space, and honestly even when they see each other as predator and prey a lot of the time, but especially when they don't. Yeah, I just think that's a really nice thing. It's a confirmation that we're not going to have these tiny carnivores still murdering the large herbivores, basically. We even saw it with the Troodon in the last game, where it would attack a hadrosaur and it would take it down slowly over time with poison. It was a little bit weird. No more of that, that's gone, which I think is a nice little change. It sounds like they are going to be pretty reliant on a large pack size, plenty of friends necessary. And that is about it. Thank you so much for joining me, ladies and gentlemen. We saw brand new social interactions, new idle animations, some brilliant new skins, and we also saw our first sign of hunting. It is again a canned animation hunting down a goat, but that's cool, it's a start. Very excited to see how it develops further from here. Thank you so much for joining me. Let me know what you think. Did I miss anything? Hit me up in the comment section down below. If any of you are particularly flora inclined, feel free to throw some information about that down below as well. It's definitely not my area. And hopefully this time next week I come back for the next one. I hope so, anyway. Fingers crossed. My prediction for next week will be... My prediction for next week, I guess, is Stegosaurus. It feels like they're going through all the dinosaurs we've already seen. Stegosaurus, Pteranodon, Tyrannosaurus Rex. Nasutoceratops, they're all potential options, but hey, maybe they'll throw us a curveball. That would be awesome. Either way, thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you lovely folks then. Cheers much love as always. Oh, and remember to hit the like button. Cool beans. Cheers much love as always. Bye-bye.
Houston, if you're ready, we'll maneuver. Reaching out.